Yeah. So the reading this week from Consolations has been on, or was on friendship, and we're going to read that together as well as sit in the reflection questions around it in a few moments. There was a lot here, and I wasn't sure what to pull. And what I ended up doing was I ended up with stumbled on two poems that I wrote that I'm going to bring into play to offer tonight, and then also a reading from John O'Donohue. The two insights were linked to two poems that I wrote in the last couple of years. The first was David's language. He says here about not quite halfway through that even though we kind of know the dark aspects, he even uses the word sin, the shadow side of our friends, that it's not through critiquing them or trying to change them or trying to force them to see the situation or to address those parts of themselves that we can see, but it's the he says we need to address the better part of them in friendship. And I love the language he uses next, which is very evocative, the leading creative edge of their incarnation, and discouraging then what makes them smaller, less generous. And then he ends up by saying less themselves, less of who they are. So I love this language, and that evoked the idea of what he talks about near the end of the reading about witness and mirroring back, reflecting back in friendship, and seeing ourselves. You know, in my experience of friendship, it's been my friends, they see qualities in me that I can't even see in myself, or it's revealed somehow in that relationship. And so I'll just offer one of my poems. I write poems on Twitter or X, which has really become problematic uh, in the midst of all of the upheaval with that particular social media network. But I still do. It's kind of my act of defiance. It's my subversive way of staying part of the conversation. I can't do much else on X, but I find that writing poems works, and I write them the exact length of a tweet. So they're called twaikus because they're kind of haiku style, and they're written on Twitter. So these are twaikus, and I've got a few hundred of these now accumulating. I'll share this one here that speaks to David's, I think, reflection on what David's sharing here. So let me share my screen. So this is Twaiku 59 mirror. And these are very simple. Like I said, they're limited to a tweet. So I've only got 250 characters, including spaces. So they have to be very simple. And this one starts this way. I like you. I hope this doesn't sound selfish, but I find I also like me when you're around. Doing something to me, for me, in me, activated by your faith. I like who I am much more as you mirror me. Your trust in me reveals a beauty often hidden, denied, doubted when you're not here. So that's my attempt to try to express what David is talking about, what I've noticed as well, that in true friendship, there's a revelation that it can't come from, I can't get it from myself. I have to have it in relationship with the other and see myself through their eyes and see myself through their sensation and their experience. And that then in a really kind of strange paradox or an irony, it reveals my truer nature in the relationship. And what I often imagine in my individual self-reflection on myself is a distortion. Is very difficult to find the true image, but it's easier in relationship to find the truth. That's the power of friendship. The other insight from David that has really been sitting with me this week is the way in which he talks about friendship beyond life. A friend who's died, and the language David uses is that friendship transcends disappearance. It goes on after death. This kind of, he calls it an enduring friendship, but the exchange only becomes transmuted by absence. The relationship doesn't stop growing; it keeps growing, maturing, but in a silent, internal, conversational way, even after one half of the bond is passed on. It reactivated a memory of reading a wonderful book. I'll put this in the email this week to everybody. It's a book by Cynthia Bourgeault, wonderful mystical writer. And the book was titled Love is Stronger Than Death. And it's about her relationship with this Trappist monk who's in his 70s, Brother Raphael. And they have, he's never had a relationship with an intimate relationship with a woman before, and they sort of fall in love and have this mystical love relationship, him in his last years of life. And after he dies, she sort of journals and charts their relationship and even their planning of when he would die, what their relationship could be beyond life. And it's a very, very interesting book. I think for some people, it's quite challenging. Cynthia's perception of relationships beyond this life, but I find it to be incredibly mm, it's it's opened me up to how the ancestors live with us in a way that I hadn't before I read her book. Um, the other twaiku I wanted to bring into play tonight, just as an offering for us, and I'll send both these twaikus out this week to the group by email too, with Cynthia's book. This one's about my friend Jonathan who took his own life quite a few years ago now, and he's one who visits me not so much lately, but there have been phases where Jonathan has shown up in my life, and his presence has really been felt. We had a brief but very beautiful friendship together, and it's interesting that of all the people in my life, some that I feel like I've been maybe closer to in some ways, and family members, intimate family members, but it's Jonathan who's the one who shows up, and I have some theories around maybe why that's the case, but this is a poem, Twaiku, about that friendship beyond this life, or what David would say is an enduring friendship beyond disappearance of one friend. So this one's called Twaiku 34. It's called Guides. My friend Jonathan took his own life so many years ago. In his last year, we hiked the glaciers with our daughters. I've been surprised how often he visits me, freed now from his tortured mind, reassuring me, mystery, this connection, how friends and ancestors become our guides. David Whyte had a long friendship with John O'Donohue, and when he's writing in Consolations, I can't help but feel he's also reflecting on John O'Donohue, this Irish mystic and incredible writer. John writes a lot about the Celtic spirituality, the Celtic perception of the world and philosophy and theology. Very interesting writer. And they did a lot of retreats and walking pilgrimage guided together. I have some friends who've done some of their trips to Ireland when John was still alive before his tragic death. He died quite young. And I heard David speaking a few years ago about his friendship with John and how it is one of those friendships for him that has endured beyond death. And John and him often have conversations together. And that so I wonder if that's the kind of the reference that David's making in this essay is to John. So I just want to read you a brief passage from a wonderful book that I come back to all the time called Anam Cara, which is Gaelic for soul friend. It's also what we named our sailboat after as well, was this wonderful reflection from John about friendship. And in some ways, David's essay is really a synthesis of John's book. And John's book is just a much, much richer, deeper exploration into all the things that David kind of hints at in this essay. It's this essay he wrote. So I'll just read a little bit from John. In everyone's life, there is a great need for an anamkara, a soul friend. In this love, you are understood as you are without mask or pretension. The superficial and functional lies, the half-truths of social acquaintance, they fall away, and you can be as you really are. Love allows understanding to dawn, and understanding is precious. Where you are understood, you are at home. Understanding nourishes belonging. When you really feel understood, you'll feel free to release yourself into the trust and shelter of the other person's soul. And then he quotes from Pablo Neruda, "You are like nobody since I love you. You are like nobody since I love you." This art of love discloses the special and sacred identity of the other person. Love is the only light that can truly read the secret signature of the other person's individuality and soul. Love alone is literate in the world of origin. It can decipher identity and destiny. And I should have read that with an Irish accent, but I didn't want to take the chance. All right.
What
Because then
page
if you
is that?
listen,
What page is
what's
that?
up?
What page is?
From the thanks, Sloan. From the paperback, that's on page 14.
Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. Okay. So let's go into David's reflection now, where all of these different themes, these different insights are going to come up. The one we started with about befriending everything, we're going to see that. We're going to see the reflection about finding an amplification of the best, the good in the other through friendship, and then this friendship that endures death. And then John's beautiful mystical language about how love is a language that can decipher identity and destiny. And that's how John will end the essay with talking about not just the present, but the future, that somehow our friends in their witnessing reveal to us where we're going. There's some guidance in their friendship as well. Okay. This is a long reading, longer reading here we've got tonight. So I'd like someone to start us off and then just let us know when you're ready to pass the baton, and then we'll pick up another reader. So whoever would like to start with a reading friendship, go ahead and jump in and read us the first section here.
I'll start, Dan.
Thank you, Sloan.
Friendship is a mirror to presence and a testament to forgiveness. Friendship not only helps us see ourselves through another's eyes, but can be sustained over the years only with someone who has repeatedly forgiven us for our trespasses, as we must find it in ourselves to forgive them in turn. A friend knows our difficulties and shadows and remains in sight, a companion to our vulnerabilities, more than our triumphs, when we are under the strange illusion we do not need them. An undercurrent of real friendship is a blessing exactly because its elemental form is rediscovered again and again through understanding and mercy. All friendships of any length are based on a continued mutual forgiveness. Without tolerance and mercy, all friendships die. I'll read another paragraph. In the course of the years, a close friendship will always reveal the shadow in the other as much as our own. To remain friends, we must know the other and their difficulties and even their sins and encourage the best in them, not through critique, but through addressing the better part of them, the leading creative edge of their incarnation, thus subtly discouraging what makes them smaller, less generous, less of themselves. I'll
Thanks,
stop.
Tom. I'll invite someone else to pick up the reading they'd like.
I will. Through the eyes of a real friendship, an individual is larger than their everyday actions. And through the eyes of another, we receive a greater sense of our own personhood, one we can aspire to, the one in whom they have most faith. Friendship is a moving frontier of understanding, not only of the self and the other, but also of a possible and as yet unlived future. Friendship is the great hidden transmuter of all relationships. It can transform a troubled marriage, make honorable a professional rivalry, make sense of heartbreak and unrequited love, and become the newly discovered ground for a mature parent-child relationship. The dynamic of friendship is almost always underestimated as a constant force in human life. A diminishing circle of friends is the first diagnostic of a life terrible and deep trouble, of overwork, of too much emphasis on a professional identity, of forgetting who will be there when our armored personalities run into the inevitable natural disasters and vulnerabilities found in even the most average existence. Through the eyes of a friend, we especially learn to remain at least a little interesting to others. When we flatten our personalities and lose our curiosity in the life of the world or of another, friendship loses spirit and animation. Boredom is the second great killer of friendship. I'll pass.
Thanks, Lori. And another reader.
I'll read.
Thanks, Jim.
Through the natural surprises of a relationship held through the passage of years, we recognize the greater surprising circles of which we are a part, and the faithfulness that leads to a wider sense of revelation, independent of human relationship. To learn to be friends with the earth and the sky, with the horizon and with the seasons, even with the disappearances of winter, and in that faithfulness, take the difficult path of becoming a good friend to our own going. Friendship transcends disappearance, and enduring friendship goes on after death, the exchange only transmuted by absence, the relationship advancing and maturing in a silent, internal, conversational way, even after one half of the bond has passed on. But no matter the medicinal virtues of being a true friend or sustaining a long, close relationship with another, the ultimate touchstone of friendship is not improvement, neither of the other nor of the self. The ultimate touchstone is witness. The privilege of having been seen by someone, and the equal privilege of being granted the sight of the essence of another, to have walked with them and to have believed in them. And sometimes just to have accompanied them for however brief a span on a journey impossible to accomplish alone.
Thanks, Jay. And here are the reflection questions, if these are helpful to you. This is a question I've been wondering about. What friendship have I underestimated for its force in my life? When was a time when I know I was witnessed, really seen by a friend? What do I believe are my strengths, my weaknesses as a friend to others? So my capacity for friendship and my limitations. Okay, so the first question on maybe underestimating a friendship, reflecting on a time of being seen, sensed, experienced by another, witnessed by them, accompanied by them. What do I believe are my strengths and weaknesses as a friend to others? I'll leave these up on the screen. We'll go to breakouts. For the breakouts, I would like to have a little bit more of a disciplined space for this time. Every person in the triad will get a 3-minute devoted time. So decide on the order and then go ahead and begin. Doesn't have to be filled with words. The silence is beautiful. And just to be able to be witnessed and accompanied. We're living into really David's essay tonight, and to really hear one another. There's no need for feedback, no response to what has been shared, no conclusions that are necessary. Just the experience of hearing what I need to hear. And we're going to have a bit of solitude time before that. So right now it's I've got about 23 after the hour. So let's take about 15 minutes of time. So let's come back at 35. So in Pacific time, it's 7:35. So that's about 12 minutes or so from now. And that gives you just a chance of doing a bit of a depth sounding, maybe do some journal writing, or just sit in meditation. Maybe just one of these questions is speaking to you. So feel free to go ahead and you can turn off your cameras and make sure you're muted. And then we'll come back in 35 past the hour.